For the new F10, we had to review the whole project, from the nose to the rear wing, for two main reasons. The substantial changes of some of the rules, and because we had to recover an obvious performance deficit we had last year compared to our competitors. The main aspects of the rules have been outlined by Aldo Costa, but we had to make the car longer to fit the bigger tank. And then we had to review the car's front. And that was because the tires are different. And, perhaps more importantly, we also had to review the car's rear axle to exploit the double diffuser as much as possible. In this area, we worked a lot in the aerodynamics department, trying to exploit and widen the diffuser, making it more efficient, improving the airflow underneath the car, and therefore the downforce. Trying to describe the F10 from the back to the front, we studied the car's front first, to improve the airflow to the car's main body. And that's why we raised its nose and modified the lower part of the chassis in order to improve the flow towards the more efficient diffuser. The front wing was reviewed because we wanted to improve the front wing's vortex flows towards the rear axle. Because of the rules, we had to get rid of the static flange on the outside of the wheels. These appendixes had a very important aerodynamic effect. Trying to recover this performance was hard work. The front suspension has been aligned with the vortex flow from the front wing. So I'd say that although the car's front part has some similarities to the previous car, it's been completely reviewed. As far as the center of the car is concerned, we slightly narrowed the inlets in order to improve still further the flow around the car and improve the flow underneath the car towards the diffuser. In terms of the aerodynamics, regarding the overall form, further back we have one of the car's most demanding development areas. Last year, we weren't able to build a diffuser which was efficient enough because the car hadn't been planned from the start for something like that. And in fact, the F2009's gearbox was too big, too wide, so we weren't able to exploit the double diffuser as much as we would have liked to. This year, we completely reviewed the gearbox and made it smaller, so there's more space for the diffuser. But we also worked on the rear suspension. So, the area, which is visually very different from last year's car, is the area around the diffuser, which, due to the mechanical work, the gearbox and the suspension, is now bigger. Due to the work on the diffuser, we had to review the flow of the brakes, the rear wheels, where various appendixes are different compared to the previous car. I think that the rear wing, compared to other parts of the car, was the most gradual evolution from last year's car. There are changes. The form is definitely different, but this might not be visible. As far as the actual mechanics of the project are concerned, the front and rear suspension have been reviewed in order to help the car's aerodynamics and improve the car's dynamic on the track. The front suspension has been changed regarding the kinematics when the wheel rolls over bumps on the track. We reviewed the dampers and the suspension's whole internal part. The rear suspension had some kinetic changes because we understood the tires better and we wanted to make them more efficient. We worked hard in this area with the group from the simulator to find what, according to us, is the best kinematic compromise. The chassis had to be reviewed in order to fit the much bigger tank. This year, as we said, we can't refuel during the race, and that was something to be considered during the planning, something we had to solve. As far as the tank is concerned, we had to review the suction lift, because when a tank is that big, you want to use every cubic centimeter of the petrol that fits. You don't want to find any petrol in the tank at the end of the race. You want to use it all. So we had to review our tank system. But the bigger tank led to an inflated chassis, laterally and to the rear. And so we had to deal with a longer and a wider chassis. Because the chassis is wider, we had to study a new cooling system. Because if we had moved the radiators further out, the car would have been too wide, and we would have lost too much aerodynamic performance. So we had to review the radiator's layout and configuration. Obviously, the longer chassis is the main cause why we made the car longer, because it has lots of petrol on board. Therefore, the car is longer than the previous one. Naturally, also the weight distribution had an influence on the car's layout. We're using new tires, and they need a different weight distribution. This had not only an influence on the ballast housing, but also on the position of the front and rear wheels regarding the car's main mass, to distribute the weight equally, while we were using what the simulations told us about the new tires. I've already spoken about the gearbox, regarding the diffuser, the aerodynamics. Some of the internal parts of this narrower gearbox actually had to be redesigned, creating a gearbox with all the components inside. Building an efficient, reliable and sufficiently rigid gearbox was an important task for the group responsible.